So I'm playing Streets of Rage 4 here, right? And this is about halfway through the game, and I'm playing on the second hardest difficulty. And I come up to this combat encounter here. And I want to show this off because I think when you play a beat 'em up, there's this inclination to just walk up to guys and mash the attack button like a madman. And generally that will work for the most part. It might take a couple tries, you might have to brute force it with some deaths or game overs or whatever, but you can usually finish a beat 'em up just by kinda mashing buttons. But while that might be enough to like get you through the game on like the normal difficulty or whatever, you're not going to be able to do something like this. You're not going to be able to get through a big encounter on a higher difficulty without taking any hits. The reason I'm able to do that is because I'm not just randomly hitting buttons. There's a lot more to this game than just that. And I kind of want to talk about what is going on in this game and how to understand and incorporate these ideas into your own play to get to the next level above just mashing buttons. So let's take this one step at a time. Let's say you are the guy that's still just walking up to enemies and mindlessly hitting the attack button over and over again. Well, what's the biggest problem you have keeping you from walking up to a guy and hitting him? It's getting hit yourself, of course. So that's the first problem we have to solve. How do you not get hit so you can hit the guys? Well, you can't block and you don't have any kind of dodge move or whatever, but what you do have is your defensive special move. With Blaze here, it's this flip kick you see me do a couple of times. What's great about this move is that it hits really big all around you and you're invincible while doing it. So it's a good counterattack, it's your only option when you've already started taking hits, and in general, it makes for a good, like, get off me move when you need some breathing space. And after hearing all that, you might be thinking, oh, perfect! That's the only defensive tool I'd ever need right there. But unfortunately, it's not that simple, because if you look at my health every time I use that flip kick, a chunk of it turns green. Now, if I land hits on enemies, some of that green health will be recovered. But if I take a single hit at all, I lose all that green health. So, it's a risky thing to go for. If you have a lot of green health, then you're going to have to avoid hits and land some of your own to get it back. Well, how are you going to avoid those hits? You're just going to use more defensive special moves because that's just going to turn even more of your health green. You just keep doing it until your entire health bar is green, and then you finally mess up, you take that hit, and you lose a ton of health. It's not the only thing you can rely on. You're going to need other defensive options. Fortunately, you have plenty. For starters, you can just jump. As it turns out, the initial startup of a jump you're invincible while doing, so you can use that to just jump right through enemy attacks. If you didn't know this, don't feel bad. The game doesn't tell you this at all. Anyway, the actual best way to avoid enemy attacks is to just simply move up and down. Yeah, that's all it takes. You see, you have to be relatively vertically aligned with your enemy in order for you two to be able to hit each other. So by simply misaligning yourself with the enemy, they won't be able to hit you. Watch this cop every time he throws up his baton. Just move down when he attacks, move back up so I can attack. It's really that easy. Check out this boss fight here. Don't worry about the combos or anything like that I'm doing, just pay attention to how I move relative to the boss. You'll see that when I approach him, I come in these like arcs. I get into his attack range to prompt him to attack, and then I move either up or down to get out of alignment, then realign after his attack so I can come in for the hit. That's all it really takes, and this guy just can't hit me. He's got nothing. Come on, Shiva. Bring it. What you got? Ow. Alright, well, fuck you. So that works when you're fighting one guy, but what happens when you have multiple people attacking you at once? Well, then things get a little bit more complicated, but generally, the same principles apply. If you look at this boss fight here, it's pretty much the same thing, just make sure to get in alignment with him when he's in my attack range so I can hit him first. But he's about to call in his buddies and make things more difficult. See, when you're fighting a group, you have to pay attention to everybody. You can't just combo the one guy to death, because while you're doing that, his buddy's gonna come and hit you in the butt. And immediately you'll see. I start attacking the boss, but I stop because an enemy's coming in from behind. Same thing happens again. Then while I'm comboing the boss, can't move, so defensive special is my only option to avoid that hit. Then I see one getting in alignment to attack from far away, so I jump over it. Then yellow's coming in, get out of the way of that. Then she comes back around again, so I just walk out of the way. And unlike Shiva, these guys actually got nothing. Get wrecked. Of course, another thing you can do when a guy's coming up behind you is simply hit him before he can hit you. You can do this with either the dedicated back attack, or my preferred way is to throw one guy into another one. What's great about this is now all the guys are grouped up so you can hit them all at once, and you don't have to worry about anyone coming up behind you anymore. A more advanced way of avoiding attacks is to use your throws. Certain throws, typically like your back throws or your suplexes or whatever, you're invincible while doing. If you take a look at this clip here, you can see that some of the bullets these guys shoot at me go right through because I'm in the middle of a throw. It's a little bit difficult to do because you have to already be in the grab ahead of time, you have to time the throw right when the attack hits, but if you can do it, it's a great way to avoid attacks while still attacking at the same time. So that's pretty much all the main defensive tools in the game that you want to be using. And this is kinda what it looks like when it all comes together. Not me getting kicked here. But right off the bat, throw to dodge that guy's attack. Defensive special here. Jump to attack this guy and accidentally avoid the hit from the guy that was off screen. Then just some simple vertical movement to avoid this attack. Then just throw this guy into his buddy who is about to hit me. As you can see, I'm thinking about quite a lot when I fight enemies. I'm not just like, man, need to punch man. That kind of mindless play is just going to get you eating all kinds of hits that you could avoid if you just put a little bit more thought into it. Another thing to keep an eye out for is whenever an enemy launches you into the air. If you press the jump button right when you hit the ground, you'll land on your feet, and this can sometimes let you avoid damage from the landing. The most important thing for avoiding damage is awareness. You need situational awareness to know everything that's going on in the battlefield, but you also need awareness of what your enemies are capable of. Pay attention to the enemies as you fight them. Learn what they do. Learn what their attacks are, how quickly they come out, the range they like to attack in, how often they attack, when they like to attack, where on the screen. Learn all these things and you'll start to notice patterns in the way the enemies behave, and then you'll be able to predict when they're going to go in for an attack, and then you can act accordingly ahead of time. And I know that sounds like a lot, but you don't have to do all of this at once. Just pay attention and be mindful, and over time, gradually, you'll start to recognize the way enemies act. Take this guy here, for example. He does this thing where he bends down and charges, and then he does these 4 kicks in a row. And I know how those kicks work because I've seen them before, so I'm confident that with just vertical movement alone, I'll be able to avoid all the kicks, no problem. 1, 2, 3... Look, no one's perfect. Oh yeah, one last thing you can do real quick. You can grab items out of the air, including ones thrown by enemies. So in situations like this where they're just throwing a ton of shit at you, you can just throw it right back at them. So now that we've covered pretty much all the defensive elements of the game, let's shift over to the offensive stuff. Does that mean we're going to learn how to do crazy cool big combos? No, not quite yet. We'll get there. First, I want to cover the importance of knowing all of your offensive options. Because the thing is, you could totally get through the game with just your basic attack string and a couple of throws here and there, and all the defensive stuff we already talked about, and that'd be enough. You don't really need anything more advanced than that. But the reason to learn about the more advanced stuff is efficiency. Because if you really think about it, your goal in this game is not to beat enemies, your goal is to get to the end of the level. The enemies are obstacles that are meant to keep you from doing that, and you have to survive those obstacles in order to get to the end. And of course the best way to survive is to not take hits, which is why defense is so important. But along with avoiding taking damage, a great way to survive is to eliminate the things that would try to deal that damage to you in the first place. And that's where having good offense comes in. If you're knowledgeable about your attack options, you can take out the enemies more quickly and easily. And the faster you take out the enemies, the less time they're alive. The less time they're alive, the less of a threat they pose to you and your survival. So again, we're going to take things slow. Let's assume that you are just walking up to guys and mashing the attack button. In that case, you're going to get your basic attack string. This is a very good tool, and you should be using this pretty regularly, even at a higher level of offense. But, and I can't stress this enough, I really recommend not mashing it out. I seriously cannot overstate how important it is to be deliberate with your button pressing. Because if you just mash, not only do you have no control, but you have no idea what you're doing. You disconnect the button presses from the actions that your character performs. Or rather, you never make that connection. All you know is that if you press the attack button a bunch of times, your character attacks. And there is absolutely nothing more detrimental to getting good at a game than acting without purpose. It keeps you from being able to learn completely. Because think about it. If you press a button and your character jumps, you now know that's the jump button. But if you press every button on the controller over and over and over again and your character jumps, you have no idea what made them do that. If you slow down a bit and press one button at a time and make the connection that this button does this action, well, now you're learning. So for example, Adam's basic combo string right here is 4 hits. 1, 2, 3, 4. I only press the buttons 4 times because that's all that's needed. Now I know that with Adam, if I press the attack button 4 times, he's gonna do his full string, and I know what each hit of that string is now. That's my grounding. That's my baseline. I now understand the basics and the root of Adam's combat. So now when I start to learn the more complex moves, I can add those on to my knowledge base and actually form an understanding of what this character can do. And once you understand things, that's when you can start to see their applications and implement them into your play. Next, let's cover grabs. Just walk into somebody and you'll grab them. Nice and simple. But actually, you have a lot of options when you've grabbed somebody. Let's take Axel here for example. You got his neutral grab attack, this headbutt here I've done a couple times. Good for knocking dudes forward. You got his back throw. Good for repositioning enemies so you're not surrounded. And you got his forward grab where he does 2 knees and then a third one that launches them up into the air. And immediately again, we have a situation where being deliberate with your button presses is very good. Because those 2 knees are not connected to the launcher, to the forward throw. You can do 2 knees into the back grab or 2 knees into the headbutt. So it's a good way to just tack on some extra damage before you throw a guy. You can also grab dudes from behind. Here your only option is this big slam move, but it does way more damage than any of your other grabs. It's so good, in fact, that you probably want to do that from your forward throw, but you're like, ugh, but I'm not behind him. How do I do the big cool fancy throw that does all the damage? Calm down. If you just press the jump button, you'll flip to the other side. This of course means that you can grab a guy from the front, give him some knees, flip over, bam! Huge damage off of a grab. Another thing that's good to note is that this flip over action is also invincible, so that's another way you can dodge attacks while still attacking. You can also press jump twice when you have a dude grabbed and you'll jump off of him. Pretty useful, has its applications if you can find them. Dudes will eventually break out of your grab, and generally stronger enemy types will break out sooner, so you just have to feel it out with each enemy type. How long can you grab this enemy for, that enemy for, and then act accordingly. If the enemy's going to break out of your grab pretty quickly, maybe don't give him the 2 knees and then the flip over for the back throw. Probably best to just give him whatever throw you can think of. Better to get some damage than he breaks out of your grab and you get none. So let's say you want to grab a guy, and bet he's gonna punch you in the face. You don't want that. You don't want to get punched in the face when you're trying to grab a dude. This is where staggering your normal attacks comes in. So you can stop your basic attack string at any time. And there's actually enough hits done that you're free to pretty much do whatever you want after hitting a guy. Very useful for extending ground combos or giving you time to reposition, but you can also use it to walk into a guy safely and throw him. You'll see that I often punch a guy, walk forward a little bit, punch him again to keep him in the hit stun so I can safely approach for the grab. So let's say you want to grab a guy again. Probably a good idea to hit him with some basic attacks first to put him in hit stun, make your approach safe. But, he's got more range than you, so you can't hit him with your basic attacks to safely approach. What can you do? Well, this is where we come back to the beauty of vertical movement. Because generally, attacks that are long-reaching are slower than short attacks. Watch this, I'm just going to keep changing alignment with this guy, and you can see him starting up his attack, but I beat him every single time because my move is faster. Now I just want to quickly cover air attacks. You got your forward air attack, good for batting dudes away. Axel's neutral air attack is also good for knocking dudes away even further. And then you have your down air attack, which hits a guy but doesn't knock him off his feet, so you can use that as an approach and opener to a combo. You also have charge attacks. Just hold the attack button until you flash yellow and then release, and you'll do a big powerful attack that usually does a good amount of damage and knocks guys away. And you have blitz attacks, such as Axel's Grand Upper here. Powerful moves, but with a lot of commitment to them, so they can be risky to throw out. Then we have special moves. I already covered the defensive special, but you have the offensive special, like Axel's Flurry of Punches here. And his air special, which is this rolling fire thing into a punch. But check out my health again. All special moves drain your health and turn it green. If I take a single hit, I lose all of that. If you want to start dishing out some real damage, you gotta be careful, but that's why the defensive stuff I talked about before is so important. If you can reliably avoid attacks, then you can more comfortably use your special moves without having to worry. Oh yeah, and there's also star moves. I don't really use them too much because you get a point bonus at the end of the level for not using your supers, but you know, if things are looking bad and it's scary, I might throw them out here and there. They're big, they're damaging, they're cool. You know. So with all that covered, we can now indeed start talking about combos. And the main concept that you want to understand for doing combos is canceling. And canceling is just a fancy way of saying doing one move into another move directly. So if you watch here, you'll see me canceling my basic attack string with Axel into his Grand Upper. And thankfully it's pretty simple in Streets of Rage 4. Basically, you can cancel your basic attacks into anything. You can cancel it into your defensive special, your offensive special. You can cancel charge attacks into special moves. And these might not always hit, it kind of just depends on how the moves work, and you just gotta experiment to see what hits after what based on how they knock guys around. You can even cancel from grabs, and you can cancel like special moves into supers. You can just like cancel all the things. You can cancel basically anything into anything. There are certain character-specific restrictions, and again, you're just gonna have to experiment and figure out what those are and figure out what works with what. And canceling also does apply to air attacks, and uniquely, you can cancel down air attacks into forward air attacks, and then of course that into an air special move for a nice like pre-baked air combo. So that pretty much covers your basics for just simple grounded combos, but now to get into the more complicated stuff, there's first two things I want to talk about. First thing is that your combo doesn't have to be big and fancy and long and complicated and all that stuff. If it kills the guy, it's good enough. You don't need really big, super elaborate combos to kill every single guy. If he's gonna go down in a couple of basic punches or a throw, then just do that, it's fine. If a guy's got a ton of health and a big combo will take a good chunk out, then sure, go ahead and do that. Use what's actually necessary for the situation. Don't do the big combo just cause you're probably just gonna get hit from behind by another guy. Unless you want to cause it's fun. Then it's fine. Second is you have to understand the various concepts or methods that you can combo somebody with. There's simple grounded combos like we've already covered, but then there's launchers, any move that knocks the enemy up into the air so you can get some free hits in on them while they're helpless. You also have wall bounces where certain moves that knock enemies away really hard, if you do that up against the corner of the arena, then they might bounce off of it back into you so you can get some more air combos going. And last is off the ground attacks. See, typically enemies when they're on the ground on their back are invincible, you can't hit them at all. But there are certain attacks in the game that will hit enemies on the ground and pick them back up for some more comboing. Axel's air special is one of these moves, so after I knock the enemy onto the ground, I can use that to extend the combo even further. So with all that in mind, let's look at making a simple combo for Axel. We're just going to give her a couple of hits, grab her, give her some knees, do the forward throw, the launcher, and then finish it off with a blitz attack. And it worked. So, let's see if we can extend it a little bit. Let's try to cancel the blitz attack into the defensive special. And that worked too. But, did you notice? She bounced off the wall right back at me. I bet you we can extend this combo even more. Let's try it. Charge attack into the wall bounce, air special to pick her up, cancel that into a super, and I don't know, offensive special to catch her. Sure, that works. And there you go. Big fancy combo just like that. Again, I want to reiterate that in most situations, I'm not going to do a combo like that. That's only for like if you're fighting one big enemy or you have all the guys grouped up. You don't want to be doing big combos like that because other dudes are just going to come in and interrupt you if you're doing it while you're surrounded in a big group fight. But you could take any piece of that combo, any of those individual elements, and use those as small little combos anywhere while you're fighting enemies. That's the real key for comboing. It's about being able to dynamically pull out a combo when you need it that will get the job done and get the most damage out of the situation that you're currently in. Doesn't always mean going for the most damaging thing you can possibly do. That's why understanding all of your offensive tools is important, because the more you understand about your attacks, the easier it is to come up with combos on the fly. But remember, just because you're comboing an enemy doesn't mean you can start to get careless about the defensive stuff either. Because other dudes are going to come and they're going to try to hit you while you're comboing, so you got to be aware of the situation around you as well while you're attacking. If a guy's coming up, maybe you should cut your combo short with a defensive special, or maybe turn it into an air combo to go over them. Stuff like that. You just gotta continue to be mindful defensively even when you're attacking. And again, these are just the ideas, the concepts. I'm not just going to tell you do this combo with this character or do this combo with that character. Because there's way too much in the game and all the different characters with their different mechanics and moves and stuff. Really the best way to figure everything out is to just experiment and see what works and what you can do with it. You might have noticed in the last clip that I was using Blaze's air special as kind of like a makeshift dodge, because I just used it a bunch and saw that it had good horizontal movement, so I was like, let me try this, and it ended up working. Here with Cherry, I like to use her unique down special where she bounces off enemies to move around the battlefield safely while still attacking. And of course Floyd! Hey, you pick up a dude, walk around, chuck him into other dudes, pick up a dude, pick up another dude, smash them together. I really encourage the best way to do big combos and big damage and really optimize your use of your character's tools is to just experiment. See what they have and try to use it, see what works, see what doesn't, and just try to make combos happen. This is my first time ever playing with Floyd, and look what I'm doing. I'm just flailing around, pressing buttons in different directions and seeing what happens. What can I do? What moves does this character have? How do they work? And you just do that while you're playing too. See what you have and try to incorporate it into your play. So that's pretty much all the mechanics of the game that I wanted to talk about, and you've been sitting there listening to me ramble about you should do this, you should do that, think about this, all that stuff. But I've yet to explain why I think you should do these things. And the answer is really quite simple. It's because it's fun. You know, beat-em-ups, they get this reputation for being pretty mindless games where you just walk up to enemies and hit them. And oftentimes that can be the case, but with some games, like Streets of Rage 4 here, I'd hope at this point you'd see that there's actually a lot to consider when it comes to the fighting, a lot to think about, a lot of decisions to make, and a lot of choices in terms of what you choose to do in the middle of a battle. There's enough there that the game doesn't just have to be go right, kill guys. You can turn each fight into more of a playground where, beyond just trying to kill the enemies, you're making your own fun by taking them out in whatever way you can come up with. That's the whole point, right? Having fun and beating them up. And personally, this is what I enjoy about games. I really like to figure a game out, see how it works, and really explore it as much as I can and get the most out of its systems and really see what I can do, what I can get away with, and what cool shit I can make happen. And to me, it's such a shame to see someone play a game like this and not understand what's going on and not make an effort to understand what's going on. Of course, I understand that everybody enjoys games in their own way, and it's not like I want everybody to play games the exact same way I do or anything. It's just that when someone plays through a game like this cluelessly, whether or not they end up liking it, I can't help but feeling that if they actually knew what they were doing, they'd probably enjoy it a lot more. But I don't blame anyone, you know, most of the time with these kinds of action games, you just gotta figure it all out yourself. And a lot of people, they're not going to figure it out on their own, and that's fine, it's not a problem. But it got me thinking that maybe those people could use a little bit of help understanding games like this. And so here we are. Why don't we take another look at that opening fight again, and think a little bit more about it this time. So immediately dudes come in and I'm surrounded. I don't like that, so I throw these two guys out of the way. Beat on this guy for a little bit, and then go for that pipe, because look at all those dudes grouped up over there. I want to hit them all at once. Unfortunately, it doesn't work out so well. Throw the pipe at this guy, because it's faster than hitting. Then I end up surrounded. I don't know what's going on. I'm scared. Defensive special. Slam that guy to make some room and then get out of there. I'll just beat on this one lone guy for a little bit. Now with their backs turned, I'll come in, finish him off, and here comes the next wave. These cops with the tasers are annoying as hell, so I use it myself to get rid of it right now. Take care of that guy, and now they're all grouped up, so it's time for a big combo. Finish him, dash up to this guy, accidentally dash a second time, and luckily avoid his hit. And there we go. Doesn't seem so crazy anymore, does it? I had a lot of fun making this video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe learned a thing or two about how to play Streets of Rage 4 a little bit better. And I think I'm going to keep making more of these for other games I think are cool. I'll see you then.